Welcome. You have reached Imperial Sports, and today's video is Terrance Crawford, the king of the welterweight division. Let's get into it. So, those of you that's in the boxing pretty much know that Terrance Crawford faced Shawn Porter last night, November 20th, 2021. And all the odds makers had Crawford winning. And all the boxing fans, all the videos that you see, everybody had Crawford winning. Nobody believed in Shawn Porter that he could actually be Terrance Crawford, because Terrance Crawford is just skill set. Anybody that follow boxing know his skill set is higher than Porter. He's more accurate puncher, and he's a dog. And on top of that, Shawn Porter has not beaten nobody that has been elite, considered elite in all his matches. He lost to Keith Thurman when Keith Thurman was on top. Of course, he lost to Errol Spence. He lost to Kell Brook. Now he's lost to Terrance Crawford in 10th round TKO. And no knock to him. One thing you can say about Porter, he's tough. And he pretty much, he got a resume of he fought the best that was out there. He put it on the line. And of course, it's more easier once you take a loss. You know, you don't have the Mayweather effect. Now, nobody was really surprised. If you look at all the odds makers, everybody videos, everybody had Crawford winning. So what was the surprise that he stopped him? It's just Shawn Porter, in his other defeats, he hasn't been stopped. Now, he's been knocked down by Adrian Broner. He's been knocked down by Errol Spence. And really, that knockdown with Errol Spence is what changed. Because up until that, everybody had that fight a draw. And the knockdown which changed the narrative in Errol Spence's favor. And the same way he got caught against Adrian Broner and got dropped in the 12th round when he fought Adrian Broner, the same way he got dropped when Errol Spence caught him in the 11th round in their fight, he got caught with the same punch. And really, Crawford was setting him up with, hitting him with that punch the whole, that body shot hook. He was catching him the whole fight with that. And eventually, if you look at it, when Adrian Broner caught Shawn Porter, it was in the 12th round. And when Errol Spence caught Porter, it was in the 11th round. So what that tells me is that even though Shawn Porter's in shape, he starts to gas in the later rounds, and his balance becomes off. And he becomes more wilder, get complacent, and get caught with that punch. And if you look at the punch, it was 10th round. Later in the rounds, about a round or two before that, you seen Porter was gassed, starting to see that he was a little tired. And that's when, of course, Crawford could capitalize, because he'd be off balance. And so he caught him with that hook. That's what dropped him. And he jumped back up. But then the second knockdown, he got caught again, but this time he got hit on the ear. And this is where you see him on the picture right here. He got caught on the ear, and he was banging on the ground, like upset that he got caught like that. But he was still in tune. It's not like he was out of it. His dad called the fight. And a lot of people was upset that he called the fight. I guess they rather see him get knocked out, but he was still into the fight. Not saying that he would have made anything different happen, or he would have caught, because he kind of feather fisted, or he would have caught Crawford and changed the fight. It's just that, he could have still potentially ended the fight, made it through the rest of that round, ended the fight without getting knocked out. And then he'd have won by, Crawford would have won by decision. By the dad stopping the fight, it just kind of left a little, the dad position. After the fight, they interviewed the dad. And you're going to hear this. A lot of people in the Nori made videos. And the fans booed him right on point when he said this in the arena. He said the reason he stopped the fight because Sean Porter did not prep properly for this fight. Nah, man. See, a lot of people were saying this also before the fight, that Sean Porter's career was derailed from his dad. He should have been dropped his dad as his coach. Now, that's his dad, his loyalty. His dad been there. So it's kind of hard. It's easier for us being on the outside looking in to say whatever. But doesn't mean that we're necessarily wrong. Roy Jones had to do it with his father. He needed that separation, one, to get better. Somebody that could teach him something different. Or two, that you ain't got to worry about somebody doing what he did to him last night. And then for the dad to come out, and the dad pretty much still teach. He's like 34 or however Porter is. He still treat him like he's a little boy. And he's not letting his son be a man. Especially on public display. It's one thing, y'all behind closed scenes and he get a little extra and you check him because, you know, you're saying that he didn't respect you because you still his father. That's one thing. But to be in public eye, treating him like a little boy, that man's 34 years old, man. And, you know, Sean Porter's a good guy. Everybody can see that he's not going to go against the grain against his dad. And not why he's telling him to, but at some point when you got that type of relationship, a man will have to step up and say, I'm a man first. Respect me as such. Because if you don't, he going to always berate. He going to always belittle you. He'll get Sean Porter, and I don't know if Sean Porter got kids or not. He'll get him in front of his kids or he'll get him in front of his woman and treat him like a little boy in front of his woman. Egotistical. Because Sean allowed him to be that way. Nah, that ain't cool, man. Everybody's seeing that. So anybody speaking up, saying videos, they not wrong. Yeah, that's their situation. That's a family affair. But don't mean that people wrong in the process either. So you had that going on. And he gave his kudos to Crawford. He collected his last check because he put his retirement. And everybody's seeing this coming. He really don't got nothing else to prove to nobody. He's not going to win no title nowhere. He don't want to go out. He don't want to become a gatekeeper fighter for the younger fighters. So he got his next payday. And actually, Sean Porter does good at commentating and stuff like that. So he already has another opportunity to commentate in fights and stuff like that. He got a good personality. So he already veered in that lane. So it's kind of like an easier transition. He got money and now he can commentate. Now it's going to be interesting to see what his dad do now with him retiring. Because I don't know who his dad else trains or whatever. So now you get to Crawford. We're hearing rumors that Crawford is alleged to fight Josh Taylor next. Don't nobody want to see that fight because that's only a one-sided advantage. Josh Taylor, if he beats Crawford, he becomes another world title in another division and get more notoriety. If Crawford beat Taylor, what does that mean? Because Taylor is not like a world beater, even though he's undisputed, so salute to him for that. But it's not like he comes with significant. The UK fighters don't boost him up. From the UK side, that's where he's from. They don't boost him up. So, where does Crawford take advantage of fighting Josh Taylor? What does he benefit from that? Nothing. To come back down and say, oh, I beat the undisputed fighter in the division I used to be in, now you're in the bigger... No, I don't see where that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It only makes sense for Josh Taylor. It doesn't make sense for Crawford. Why even entertain that? Now, Crawford had to fight Sean Porter because it was his mandatory. Now, he fulfilled his mandatory obligation, so now he does have the right to fight whoever. It's only 2 fighters that should be fighting Crawford next. Only 2 fighters. Only 2. And it shouldn't be nothing else. I didn't stick around to see what Crawford said at the end of his when they interviewed him after the fight. I just seen Porter and his dad talk. And that's another thing. Going back to Porter. Porter said a little bit his dad, when they first off they asked his dad, that ain't his time. I want to hear that shit maybe at the post conference or somewhere else. Let Porter talk. Sean Porter talk. They interviewed his dad, and the dad went on. He had more talk time than Sean Porter did. Man, that whole situation is whack. And like I said, easier said than done because a lot of us might not be in that situation. But man, that was bogus. That was bogus. Nevertheless, back to Crawford. I didn't see what he had to say, but it's only 2 fighters: Errol Spence or Ugas. Now, Errol Spence before the accident would have been more of an intriguing fight. Both of them at peak condition. We're going to see how it roll. The Errol Spence now, and Crawford got to do what he got to do if they ever get in the ring. We don't know. Well, I ain't going to say we don't know. A lot of people that really watch boxing don't think Errol Spence is the same fighter. The accident is 2 years since that car accident, and that took something out of him. We lost teeth, head concussion, everything. Took something out of him. And anybody say that, Spence is still the same fighter. If you've been through any trauma or serious situation in your life, health-wise, physically, especially physically, hey, I gotta say mentally too, mentally, physically and mentally, if you've been through something like that, it does take something out of you. It does take something out of you. And those who've been through those circumstances know what I'm talking about. They can really probably pinpoint, maybe not everybody, so I never want to say it's 100, but a lot of people that have been through those scenarios will tell you that after they came back from whatever, a piece of them was left behind. Whether that's a good, bad thing, maybe some people came out better than they was, but then in his type of sport, that a peak physical condition is necessary. I believe it took something out of Errol Spence physically. So I said all that to say, it lessens Errol Spence's chances of beating Crawford. And that's a fact, in my opinion. Not saying that he can't get it done, but the odds are stacked against him. Because not only did you have the car accident situation, then you had the eye retina situation. So you got two major health conditions going on that people will look at as, I don't know if Earl can beat Crawford. Crawford he's very accurate with his punches. He's a dog. You're looking at Crawford and saying, how does Errol Spence beat Crawford? I don't know. The second fighter who Crawford should be fighting is Ugas. Ugas has the belt. He has the belt. Crawford should be fighting either Errol Spence or Ugas next. Or only way that he's not fighting Errol Spence next or Ugas next is if those two are going to fight each other. If that's not happening, that's the 3 triangle. It should be nothing else. It should be nothing else. If Crawford is fighting Ugas next, then Errol Spence, maybe he get a tune-up while they get a fight. And then the next fight is Crawford. Everybody, you got to believe Crawford's going to dust Ugas. So Crawford and Spence next. Of course, if Spence get through the person he tune-up fight on. Or it's Ugas. If Errol Spence fights Ugas next, then if I'm Crawford, I don't fight nobody. You know what I'm saying? I don't fight nobody until I fight the winner of Spence and Ugas. However that's gonna work out. That triangle, that's it. That's all we want to see. That's all we care to see. You know what I'm saying? All that Josh Taylor crap, knock that off. shoot the birds with that. And I don't even see where the business side of that makes sense. Just doesn't. It does nothing for Crawford. It does nothing for. It makes sense for Crawford. If I'm Crawford, share this video with Crawford. If I'm Crawford, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to fight Taylor. If you Crawford, what makes sense to your career is getting those belts and become undisputed in 2 weight divisions. That's what's significant. That's your legacy right there. Being undisputed in 2 weight divisions. Now becomes the final piece. Crawford is the king of the welterweight division. I think he trumps Spence. Spence in inactivity. In 2 years, Spence fought 1 time. 2 years. But let that process in your mind. It don't even seem like that, does it? In 2 years, Errol Spence fought 1 time. So, it makes kind of sense what I'm saying. But also with Crawford, I heard some talks about him potentially moving up in the junior middleweight division where Jamel Tarlow and them at. Don't do that, bro. Don't. Leave that alone. Leave that alone. Especially against Jamel. Even though Jamel didn't, that last Castino that he fought, he didn't get it done when he had the opportunity, and then of course Castillo was catching him, so he had to fall back off the gas so he don't get caught and knocked out. So, but Jamel would be so confident in Crawford that he would take all types of chances to get his off. And there was moments where Porter was catching Crawford, but he pillow fisted, so it didn't affect Crawford. You know, he didn't fear him. That ain't gonna be the same with Jamel. So that's why I would leave that alone, or whatever. I think Crawford's legacy is to become undisputed in 2 weight divisions. And then if he want to cash out, if he maintains and get all the belts for welterweight and become undisputed in 2 weight divisions, he could cash out especially if he remain undefeated in that process. Because really, that's 2 fights. He'd be 40-0, right? He's 38-0 now. He'd be 40-0. He could cash out and talk cash junk to Canelo, telling Canelo, meet me at a catchweight. I'm really the best under pound for pound fighter. Woo. Talk cash and fight Canelo. Fight Canelo and cash out. Cash out all that fight. It'd be a pay-per-view fight. Even though most boxing fans, we know Canelo would dust him. He's too big or whatever, and he'd dust him. But hey, everybody watch it and just cash out on that. You know, people go for it. You know, that's why I see that happening. Just for name purposes, because you got, when you look at the top 5 pound for pound, you got Canelo and Crawford in the top 5. So people would tune into that right there. So I will say, if I'm Crawford, and you're going to start to see this more, people that was on the Errol Spence train, you're going to see them start to drift off of Errol Spence, because his inactivity, 1 fight in 2 years, and people look at Spence having lack of discipline. Whatever's going on in Spence's mind, I think he got, once you get the money and start getting the notoriety and the fame, you can get the best of anybody. We have seen it time and time again, and that's kind of what we're looking at in Spence, you know what I'm saying? And when you see Spence hanging out with rappers and all that, trying to live that life, it's reminiscent when you see James Harden hanging out with rappers and stuff, living that life. And he come into the season stinking it up. Not in shape, trying to play himself into shape. He just don't look the same. Same thing with Errol Spence. You know, people could say, oh, people just hating. That ain't hating. They just, the eye test tell you what you're seeing. You know, that's all. That's just a fact. Well, nevertheless, that's enough of this video. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Till next time.